One rule of thumb before we get to example 2 is once you start solving a triangle using the law of cosines, always use the law of cosines. Otherwise, you have to worry about those ambiguous cases with the law of sines. So if you're going to use the law of cosines for one angle, make sure you use it for everything else as you start solving. So let's look at example 2. Let's go ahead and draw our triangle. So we have triangle ABC. So here's A, B, and C. So we know little a is 5, we know little b is 8, and we know little c, big C is 65 degrees. So this should be big. All right, now as we go ahead to start solving it, we need to figure out what we can find first. The law of sines won't work because we don't have anything where we have an angle and a side to use that law of sines. But we can see that we nicely have something in mind where we have the side, the angle, and the side for the law of cosines to work. And so the first thing that we can find is this little c that's across from here. So that's what we'll find first. So we're going to find little c. And to do that, we know that c squared is going to be equal to, now remember we're taking the squares and adding them together of both of these sides. So 8 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times the product of these two sides, so times 8 times 5 times the cosine of c. So if c is over here, we're taking the cosine of c, which is 65 degrees. Since we're just solving for c, let's go ahead and plug all of this into our calculator. So c squared is going to be approximately, and we're going to go to 4 decimal places here. So the more decimal places you have, the more accurate your c value is going to be. So if I plug all of this in my calculator at one time, we get c squared to be about 55.1905. And like I keep saying, make sure you're pausing this, plugging this into your calculator, and that your calculator is giving you the correct answers. Then from here, to get c by itself, we're just taking the square root of both sides. So c is going to be approximately the square root of 55.1905. And if you plug that in your calculator, let's round this to the nearest tenth, we see c is about 7.4. We can put that in our triangle. So now we know angle or side c is 7.4. And then once we have that, we can go ahead and find any of our other angles. So let's go ahead and find angle B. So to find angle B, we're going to be using the sides next to it, and this is going to be the one that's on its own. So we're going to do 8 squared, so we're finding B here. So 8 squared equals, since this is the one we're using to find angle B, we're going to square these two sides and add them together. So we have 7.4 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times the product of those two sides. So times 7.4 times 5 times the cosine of B. Next, what we want to do, we can square 8 squared, which is 64. And then we can add these two together. 7.4 squared plus 5 squared is going to give us 79.76. We can also multiply these, 2 by 7.4 by 5, which would give us 74 cosine of B. Remember, you cannot combine these two together since this 74 has a cosine attached to it. Our next step is to subtract the 79.76 to both sides. So we're going to subtract this, meaning we have 64 minus 79.76, and that will give us negative 15.76 equal to negative 74 times the cosine of B. And then we can divide both sides by negative 74. And doing that, we can just look at this. It's going to be a negative divided by a negative will make this a positive 15.76 over 74 equal to the cosine of B. And then finally, to get that cosine out, we need to take the cosine inverse. So we'll do the cosine inverse of 15.76 0.76 over 74, and that's going to give us B. And if you plug this in correctly, again, try that out, make sure you're plugging it in correctly, you should get B to be approximately 78 degrees. Now, if we go back and take a look at our triangle and put that in, we know B is 78 degrees. The only thing we have left to solve is angle A. And angle A, if we have B and we have C, we can find angle A by just subtracting from 180. So we can say angle A is going to be approximately 180 minus 65 minus 78. So angle A is going to be approximately 37 degrees. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, go ahead to the try this and pause it now and unpause it when you're ready to check your answer. If you did try this correctly, you should have gotten little h, side h, to be 5.7. You should have gotten angle J to be approximately 43 degrees. And you should have gotten angle K to be approximately 103 degrees. If you have any questions, please let me know.